Now on HTV, we take to the skies to uncover the spirit of discovery.
After 50 years, the nation looks to the Lancaster.
If this goes, what is it to show with our youngsters, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren? I know it's part of history, certainly.
Even people who don't know much about flying or even about the war, when they see this thing flying about, it's something else, isn't it?
Very nostalgic, very nostalgic. Brings a lot of memories back. Yes.
In the dying days of summer, the Lancaster arrived unceremoniously in South Wales for vital repairs. It could have been a scene from the 1940s as a crew returned from another mission. Out of another era, but not out of place amongst the fearsome fighter jets and bombers of today. Technicians at RAF St Athan are experts on the world's most modern weapons of war. They now face a very different kind of challenge. In their hands is a unique piece of history.
It's remarkably good aircraft. Again, we have to remind ourselves that these aircraft were designed in the early 40s, by Chadwick of Avro, and they were designed to operate and last for about 6 months. That was sort of a good life, was 6 months old. This aircraft has now lasted 50 years, so it's doing pretty well from that point of view. But at the time, they were the very top edge of technology, really.
More than half a century of flying has taken its toll on this grand old lady. The girder supporting the giant wing, the Lancaster's backbone, is showing signs of serious metal fatigue and must be replaced.
We don't know when it would fail. There has been a lot of mathematical formula gone into the calculation of the fatigue index, but at the end of it, we've got to give it a finite date and time when that work must be done. It might go on for years, but we can't allow that to happen. What we've got to do is to forecast when it's likely to happen and make sure we do it before the event takes place. So therefore we're doing it at this point now.
Named after the city of Lincoln, it was built in 1945 and has a special place in the hearts of thousands of veterans. After 50 years, they're not quite as nimble, but back on board, their memories are just as vivid. For them, the last Lancaster is a flying tribute to the thousands of young airmen who gave their lives.
This target had been attacked before, but repairs had been made.
Well, I can remember one night, it was our first night trip. We'd done 6 daylight trips, and your first night trip was a bit of a baptism of fire. And it was the first encounter with fighters. And it had been a bad start right from the beginning because the aircraft that we should have been in, our own aircraft, was unserviceable, and we had to go in the wing commander's aircraft. And he told us to take care of it. And we were over Dortmund and we were chased by these fighters. And I was directing the fire at that time. And I was looking out, and when you saw a fighter, you were supposed to say, fighter, fighter, dead astern, prepare to corkscrew, 1,000 yards, prepare to corkscrew, port go. Which when you went down port, down starboard, up port, and it was a laid down drill to get away from the fighters. And I was looking out for the fighter, and I saw this fighter, and I got such a fright I couldn't speak. So I just, with my Geordie accent, shouted, there he is, there he is. And they picked him up straight away, and we actually shot a Focke-Wulf down that night. And when we got back, the skipper, unfortunately, got hit in the eye. He managed to fly the aircraft back, and he landed, and the aircraft was in a hell of a state, and the wing commander ran up to us, and we thought he was going to give us all a medal, and he said, look at the state on this aircraft.
Work in the giant hangar is well underway. The 4 mighty Rolls-Royce Merlin engines have already been removed for servicing. For the small hand-picked team, work has reached a critical moment. They're about to remove the wings, the first stage in this unique operation.
Okay, off. Gently. Go on, all right, then. Go on, you're all right. Okay, keep going. Straight at that. Go on, you're all right. Go on, you're all right. It's a bit sprung, that's all. Okay, stop at that.
These are tense moments for the team. One technician said the process was like trying to remove a skeleton without killing the patient, and there's no manual to tell you how to do it. They must rely on their skill and hundreds of original blueprints. For many of the team who trained on modern jets, working on the Lancaster has been a history lesson.
So although it's a simple aeroplane, a lot of the people that are working on this aeroplane today have never worked on an aeroplane of this age. So we have to relearn some of the old skills.
Like a giant Meccano set, the Lancaster was designed to be split into 3 sections. The wings need specialist work in Lancashire. Amazingly, the factories that built Lancasters didn't have runways, so they had to be constructed in kit form and transported by road to be assembled and flown. The journey from South Wales would take 2 days. British Aerospace has now taken over the old Lancaster factory near Manchester, but the workforce are proud of the old Avro days. It'll be their job to replace the crucial girder in the wing. It'll be groundbreaking work, and not surprisingly, there's been no shortage of volunteers. For them, the Lancaster has finally come home.
In the time I've worked at British Aerospace, it's the first time I've ever known people actually asking to actually work on a job. It's been extremely interesting for everybody. Unfortunately, a lot of the original drawings was destroyed some years ago in a fire. But we have microfilms of these drawings, which are photographs basically, which we can blow up to virtually any size. Unfortunately, a lot of those weren't in very good condition. So we've had to put a significant amount of the drawings on the computer, and we've scanned them in, and we've used those to recreate some of the drawings and some of the information, so that subcontractors and British Aerospace can use them to work to. We have found that there were a few cracks in the aircraft. For example, on the front spar, it's the only real job we've done on the front spar of the aircraft. We found some cracks in the corner of the spar web, and those cracks we had to repair. We had to do quite a significant repair on the aircraft. In point of fact, we've changed the design somewhat in that area. The prognosis for this Lancaster is that it will outlive you and it will outlive me.
The sight of a Lancaster on the shop floor revives fond memories. By 1944, production was averaging 150 a month. The young dambuster Guy Gibson visited the factory after the bouncing bomb raids to say thank you. For many, those missions were the Lancaster's finest hour.
Stand by, everyone. We're going in.
Those famous raids were immortalised in the 1955 feature film The Dambusters. at St Athan in the Vale of Glamorgan is the largest base in the Air Force. Throughout the winter months, the workshops here have been buzzing. Not surprisingly, after 50 years, there are no spare parts on the shelf for the Lancaster, so everything has to be specially made, taking measurements from the original plans. The technicians here believe they can turn their hands to just about anything. The squadron's motto is, whatever, whenever. This press is making new exhausts for the bomber.
As in every project of this size, it being a one-off, you can't forecast every single problem. So we had a few problems getting hold of bolts and the right sort of tools to do the work, which we got eventually, but it took its toll in the amount of time it took to do the job. But everybody was keen that it was done correctly first time, so it was better to slow the whole job down and get it done right first time, rather than rushing the job and then having to undo it and do it again.
Okay, Drew? Yeah, go for it. Come in a touch then. Keep going forward.
Step back on, Drew.
Stop there a sec. Do you want to feed that fuel pipe in?
The curly-coily one?
This one.
Yeah, have you got a pair of snips handy? I'll snip it now.
I suppose there have been times when I've let it get on top of me. I mean, 98% of the time I've enjoyed it, but there are the times when you're trying to get all the paperwork together at the end and make sure it's all correctly filled out and it's all coordinated. That's when the pressure tends to take its toll, and the crew are then obviously eager to get their hands on the aircraft.
A list of unforeseen problems means that the project is now behind schedule. The team are under pressure to complete the work and return the Lancaster to the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight in Lincolnshire in time for their new season of summer air displays. Many of the technicians are now working around the clock. Every nut and every rivet must go back exactly as it was. Inch by inch, the new wings are slotted into place. Slowly, as the weeks pass and winter moves into spring, the Lancaster is restored to its former glory.
August 5, Lancaster's and Halifax's Bomber Command dropped more than 2,200 tons on a flying bomb supply depot at Saint-Leu-d'Esseron. Very heavy cratering of the area resulted, with roads blocked and the railway destroyed. The caves at this depot collapsed after further attacks.
On our second operation, we were flying to Leipzig, and it was, I think we were over the Ruhr at the time, when suddenly we were coned by a battery of searchlights. A brilliant blue lit the whole of the aircraft up. There seemed no escape from it at all. No matter which way the pilot put the aircraft, the searchlights followed it. Of course, there must have been 15 or 20 had formed this solid bank. And then the flak started to come up. We heard it peppering against the side of the aircraft. Then suddenly, a tremendous bang, and I shot forward into my seat. I remember saying, I've been hit. As dramatic as that. But then coming back, we got lost, had to come back into the set to get directions back home to base, which we did and landed.
Many were not so lucky.
1,056 aircraft of Bomber Command attacked enemy troop concentrations in the Caen area in 5 waves, dropping over 5,000 tons of bombs in great concentration. The attack was carried out from between 6,000 and 10,000 feet and resulted in our troops being able to advance almost immediately afterwards.
Frightening, yes, but we were young too. That's the main thing. We were, you know, well, don't call it daredevil, but very serious, but I don't think it was frightened. Although we did get an Halifax dropped all his tender is over the target in Berlin, and we dropped from 22,000 feet down to 3,000 feet, and both wings were on fire, and anyhow, we were very lucky that night because it's only about 4 inches from the petrol tanks, and all the flaps were burnt away.
It's been a long haul, but by late spring, the Lancaster is ready to begin tests. For the team who've been working flat out, it's a proud moment. After the winter setbacks, there's great excitement.
Oh, it puts them back on a high, because that's what we're ultimately trying to achieve, is to get the aircraft back in the air. So when we get the ground runs underway, and people that were involved hadn't actually heard the aircraft, some of them before, so it was a good opportunity for them to hear 4 Merlin engines running for the first time probably in their lives, some of them.
After 8 months of silence, the Lancaster is alive again. More than 5,000 brake horsepower, the deafening equivalent of 65 family cars. The Lancaster's power and reliability is legendary. As work continued, hundreds of veterans were invited to see the Lancaster. It was a chance to be reunited with old comrades and remember those who never returned. For many here, their love affair with the Lanc has lasted 50 years. Day in, day out, they ran the gauntlet. In the Second World War, Lancasters flew more than 150,000 sorties.
Take your time. We've only got 3 bombs. Okay, leader, going in now.
I don't think they look too strong, but they are. There was only one manoeuvre on these as far as I was concerned. They taught us to corkscrew the aircraft. That was diving it in conjunction with the gunner at the back, the rear gunner. And he would more or less control you what you did. You went into the actions and he would be reporting on the plane. That's about all it was. But these things would stand throwing about, you know, tremendously strong.
After delays for bad weather, the big day has finally arrived. For the St Athan team, it's the moment of truth.
Well, today we're hoping to deliver the aircraft, so we've just finished the before flight servicing on the aircraft. So weather permitting, we're waiting for the crew, and we're looking forward to getting the aircraft back to Coningsby. That'll be a high point, to actually deliver the aircraft back to Coningsby and give it back to the owners.
At the controls will be Flight Lieutenant Mike Chatterton. It's a proud moment. His father piloted Lancasters in the Second World War. But there's little time for ceremony. For the crew, this will be a busy flight.
Number 3, oil temperature gauge. Make sure that the actual thing has a problem with the glass.
Set the glass back. It's no problem there. It's okay. Solid now.
So the dinghy won't move.
Out of his white coat and into a flying suit. Team leader Phil Royal will be on board for the historic flight. After such major work on the plane, there's a nervous excitement.
So, gentlemen, transit Coningsby. A few fly pasts here before we leave to say thank you. Fly past at Cowbridge and then at Maestig before returning to Coningsby. Anybody got any questions? What a brilliant brief then.
Time for a few adjustments.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
It's crunch time. 8 months ago, the team had set out to give the Lancaster a new lease of life. In effect, it now has wings for the next millennium. Until now, the operation had never been attempted. The real test of success will be in the air.
I don't know how on earth they managed to do such a job. I've got a bit of engineering background sort of in my early days, but to think of the vast amount of work they've done and then to put it back again into work not only as well as before but better than before, it's absolutely staggering. I've tried to ask the engineers how they do it, and they come up with lots of complicated technical answers about how they use lasers to balance the wings and make sure that everything's as close to it was before, but it still baffles me rather.
Thank you. Combine, man up. Lancaster aircraft, 5 people on board.
The rescue teams are on standby. Everything is set for takeoff.
There's always that element of doubt in your mind. Hopefully the wings are going to stay.
Lancaster clear takeoff, service wind 060, 15 knots buried out.
I have to say, I think it's beyond my wildest ambitions to actually fly the aircraft. But these aircraft, as beautiful as they were weapons of war, and people suffered terribly while they were operating them, and the ground crew that serviced them as well obviously suffered as well. And I think that's such a strong fact that this aircraft reminds people of that, and reminds them the whole point of why the aircraft was made in the first place. I get a lot of the glory for flying the aeroplane. It's not me that's been clever, it's the aircraft which people want to see. And I say I feel humbling that it's really the people who flew these aircraft in the war who deserve the adulation and the praise. And I hope that by flying the aircraft we tend to remind the general public perhaps of those people and what they got up to and what they did.
Next Thursday night, we follow disabled sailor David Sinnott-Jones' battle to raise his sunken boat in Ghost from the Deep. That's next Thursday at 10:40.